Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to be making one of my all-time favorite desserts, cookies. It's better than pie to me, it's better than cake. I just love cookies. So today I'm going to be putting a spin on this a little bit. I am going to be making half chocolate chip cookies, which is just like my first video I ever made on YouTube. I'll put a link in the description of that if you guys want to see that. Today we're going to be focusing on one of my personal creations here, and I'm attempting to make a cookies and cream cookie. So my idea for this is to take Hershey's cookies and cream bar, which is white chocolate with little bits of cookie in it, and I'm also going to be taking some Oreos and adding that in. So without further ado, let's get into this video. Alright guys, let's make these cookies and cream cookies. Alright, let's first talk about the chocolate here. I will say that these Hershey's cookies and cream bar do have a lot of cookie bits in them, so if you prefer more molten chocolate in your cookies, I would recommend just using a milk chocolate bar here. I use this because of the nostalgia factor, and I kind of wanted to snack on the extra bits as well, and it was just all for science here, but if I were to make this again, I would just use milk chocolate and then use the Oreo bits for the extra cookie. That being said, if you do prefer very crunchy cookies, you could add more Oreo bits along with this particular chocolate bar. If you were making one type of cookie here, you're going to need 7 ounces of milk chocolate or 7 ounces of this Hershey's cookies and cream bar. I'm using 3.5 here because I'm making half cookies and cream cookies and half chocolate chip cookies. Now you're going to rough chop your chocolate bar here. If you were making chocolate chip cookies, I would recommend using 60% dark chocolate. Most chocolate chip cookies that you buy at a store will have dark chocolate in them. Don't try to use the Hershey's chocolate. It does not taste as good. It'll be overly sweet. Get 60% or 50% dark chocolate. So now you're just going to scoop your chocolate up and set it in a bowl. Now for your dark chocolate. As I mentioned earlier, you want to use a kind of semi-sweet dark chocolate, which will be about 50, 55%, or 60% dark chocolate. You can go with 70 or 78 or even 80 if you really like dark chocolate, but for chocolate chip cookies I recommend 60% or 50 or 55. Alright, let's talk Oreos. If you're making half a batch of cookies and cream cookies like I am here, you're going to need 40 grams of Oreos. If you're making an entire batch, you are going to need 80 grams. So that is probably the equivalent for the full-size Oreos of 3.5 Oreo cookies for the half batch, or 7 Oreo cookies for an entire batch. I know this is getting a little bit confusing because I'm making a half batch, but just look in the description if you get confused. For the dough, 200 grams or 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, adding in 3 grams or half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and then 4 grams or half a teaspoon of baking powder. Now, this is a very good baseline cookie dough, and I would recommend making this for any cookie that you ever want to make. Now, pretend you're a Whisk Jedi, give it a spin, and then just kind of break up any flour clumps, and then you're going to whisk these dry ingredients until they are thoroughly combined. This is important because you want it to be mixed throughout. You don't want to have a big chunk of salt hanging in there somewhere. Also for the salt, if you're using table salt, you're going to want to use a little bit less than 3 grams or half a teaspoon. Kosher salt is thicker, and if you use table salt, you're going to have more salt in there than you need. Now you're going to use 112 grams or half a cup of melted butter. Now melted butter is going to make for a chewier and dense middle for your cookie, which I absolutely love. Now Joshua Wiseman uses this exact same dough, except I kind of step it up a little bit here because I brown my butter. Now browning your butter is going to add some nutty aroma to it, kind of a little hint of toffee flavor, and overall more flavor depth in your cookie. So you're going to put this over medium heat, whisk constantly because this can easily burn. Now this is kind of scary for beginners, but you're going to whisk this until it becomes lightly browned. You will see some flakes come off the bottom, and then you're immediately going to take this off the heat once it just starts to darken. Also, be sure that you are using unsalted butter here. That is the reason that we added in the salt earlier, because we don't want the salt from the butter. So as you can see, my butter is starting to get pretty dark here. Not quite an amber tone color, but just dark enough, and this will still cook a little bit once you take it off the heat. So after you reach this color here, immediately take it off the stove. You can see it's already getting a little bit dark. So just whisk it around, and then you're going to set that on the back burner and kill the heat completely. To a stand mixer or mixing bowl, add in 200 grams or 3/4 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, then 112 grams or half a cup of white sugar. Then once your butter has cooled, carefully add that in and enjoy the smell. So when you brown your butter, you get a bunch of these little caramelized brown bits, and it just makes the cookie taste so good. So don't leave any of those behind in your pan after you dump your butter. Now we're going to be adding our paddle attachment to our stand mixer here. You can just use a spatula to fold if you're using a mixing bowl, and then just mix that butter and sugar on a low speed for a minute. Next we're going to be adding in 1 egg. So you're going to add your egg in, and then you're going to add in an egg yolk. Separate the yolk from the egg white, and then you're going to add it in. If I catch you adding in the egg white from that second egg, I will personally hunt you down. Okay, I'm not going to do that, I'm joking. But as you can see, this thing is sticking here because there is no egg white to help it slide out. So the reason that you are doing this is because it's going to offer a chewier and denser middle to your cookie, which please try this out. I know it seems very extra to brown the butter and then separate 1 egg from the egg white, but I promise you, we're making good cookies around here. Go the extra mile. So I just added that egg yolk in because I couldn't get it to slide out with the cup. So if you have to, raise your stand mixer up and drop it in. Now add in 6 grams or 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now let your mixer do its thing on a medium-low speed until everything is combined. Now raise your stand mixer up and add in your flour mixture that you whisked together earlier. And always be sure to spill a little bit extra out on the side, you know, no big deal everybody, it's all good. Now just lower your stand mixer and mix this on low until everything is combined. You might have to scrape the sides down here with a spatula, but make sure it's incorporated. As you can see, your dough will start to look like this. Now if you're making one type of cookie, you don't have to do this, but I'm weighing mine out and dividing it in half. You could just eyeball it, but I like to be precise. So once your dough is divided, or if you didn't divide it, you're going to add your chocolate in and then fold that together. I'm also adding in my Oreos here, so you're just going to fold this together until everything is thoroughly combined and mixed well into the dough. So now just take some plastic wrap or beeswax if you want to be environmentally friendly, and then cover your cookie dough. Be sure to press it to the top of the dough, and then just stick that in the refrigerator to rest for at least 45 minutes or ideally overnight for best flavor development. Now we're just doing the same thing for our chocolate chip cookies here, adding in the chocolate chips and then folding it together until thoroughly combined. Once again, we're going to be covering this with plastic wrap, ensuring that we press it down to the top of the dough, and setting this in the refrigerator for at least 45 minutes, but ideally overnight. I will say that if you let these sit overnight, it really does enhance the flavor, so I would recommend doing that. So line a baking sheet with parchment paper and then use a ice cream scoop to scoop these cookies out. Look, these are going to make huge cookies, so be sure that you space them out well enough so that they do not stick to each other once you bake them. But I'm telling you guys, you have to use the ice cream scoop for big cookies. Now, if you do want to make small cookies so you can have more for a big crowd or something, obviously you can use a cookie scoop, but I will tell you the baking times for that as well in a second. Also, for both cookies, I recommend placing a little chunk of chocolate on top to give it a nice aesthetic appeal after it is done baking. So, in an oven that has been preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius, you are going to place your cookies in and let the big ones go for 10 to 15 minutes depending on your oven. I would say mine went about 12 or 13. And then if you're using small cookies, you're going to be going for about 8 to 10 minutes. So, Every 3 minutes, you are going to lift your pan up and drop it down. This is called a pan bang method, and it's going to make for a more dense cookie. Now, I would recommend doing this 1 or 2 times throughout the bake. If you want your cookies to be really flat, like my chocolate chip cookies turned out here, you can do it 3 times, but I would recommend 2. Sorry that was a little bit out of focus, but you know what's not out of focus? The end result. Alright guys, let's taste test these cookies. So as you can see, these cookies got a very nice crisp edge, nice crisp bottom, but the middle is still, if you touch it, it's still squishy and dense, which is just how I like my cookies. So let's break into this. Extremely sweet from the Hershey's cookies and cream bar, but it goes very nicely with the slightly saltiness from the Oreos. You know that little bit of salty taste the Oreos have? You can hear the crunch on the outside, in the middle. Nice, chewy, and dense. I'm also going to try this in milk because I think that would be good as well, because you got to put your Oreos in milk. These are very good. One thing that I really like about these cookies is that you get the little pieces of Oreo, not just from the Oreo itself, but the little tiny round balls of cookie bits in the Hershey bar. You can definitely tell that those are in here, but the chocolate's nice and sweet. Overall, I give this cookie, I'd say it's 8 out of 10. It's pretty good. Obviously, I'm a chocolate chip kind of guy, but if this was on a menu somewhere, I would definitely order it. Alright, now for the king of all cookies. Here's the chocolate chip. I'm gonna try to hold this up without dropping it everywhere. You see this? This is the size of my head. Nice crisp bottom, chewy outside, chewy middle. It's the best cookie I've ever had. Yep. Absolutely love these chocolate chip cookies. They're by far my favorite cookie of all time. The Hershey cookies and cream one, definitely a very good runner-up. I'll definitely make them again, and I think that you guys should try them. But try both of them out. If you're making the dough anyways, you might as well just split it in half. Try the cookies and cream kind, and then the chocolate chip kind, and tell me which one you like better. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button down below. Comment something that you want to see me cook in the future. Subscribe to my channel. We're trying to get to 100 subscriptions. And I'll see you guys on the next one.